Welcome to This Explainer. If you take a walk down the streets of London today, you're going to notice something massive shifting right before our eyes. The capital has literally become a bustling hotspot for a completely new wave of vehicles, and they are fundamentally rewriting the rules of the road.
All right, let's dive right into our roadmap for This Explainer. We're going to cover the UK's new EV landscape, the Chinese price advantage, Europe's exploding import numbers, how legacy automakers are striking back, Tesla's slipping market share, and finally, the road ahead.
So, Part 1. The UK's new EV landscape and how Chinese EVs are hitting the UK. Check out the traffic flowing through southeast London right now. And you're not just seeing those familiar European legacy cars anymore. You're suddenly spotting completely new models, like the JQ7 SUV, the BYD Seal, and Geely's all-electric EX5. And this perfectly illustrates the real driving force here, which is of course the consumer. Take Easy Woodrow, for instance. She's a recent Geely EV buyer we heard from, and she nailed it when she said that traditional automakers have been comfortable for a long time. But now, there's a new kid on the block, and they need to pay attention. We're seeing buyers like Chris and Tracy Smith actually pivot away from legacy brands like Jeep. Why? Because they're getting high-end technology and all the accessories for significantly less money.
So what does this consumer shift actually look like on a macro level? Well, it's pretty wild. Think back to just 7 years ago. Back then, Chinese models accounted for less than 1% of the UK EV market. I mean, they were almost non-existent. Today, they make up more than 30%. That is a completely explosive jump. Going from practically zero to dominating a third of the entire sector in under a decade is practically unheard of. Moving to Section 2, the Chinese price advantage. Subsidies drive growth. You're probably wondering, how on earth did these brands pull off this takeover so incredibly fast? Well, sure, the fit, finish, and technology are phenomenal, but the undeniable edge here is price, and that price is heavily supported by Chinese government subsidies. When you put the options side by side, the cost gap is just staggering. For example, a new German-built VW Tiguan plug-in hybrid sells in the UK for just over £43,000. The Chinese-built BYD Seal, it's almost £10,000 less. That's literally enough savings to completely renovate your kitchen, just for switching car brands.
And look, this isn't just an isolated case. Across the board, base sticker prices for Chinese vehicles are frequently £5,000 to £10,000 less than their mass-market legacy equivalents. When you're offering consumer discounts that enormous right out of the gate, traditional brands are finding it almost impossible to compete on price alone.
All right, Section 3, Europe's exploding import numbers, an explosive increase. To really wrap our heads around the sheer monumental scale of this export boom, we need to zoom out from the streets of the UK and look at the entirety of Europe. 1.7 million. That is the number of Chinese vehicles exported to Europe today. Just 5 years ago, that number was a mere 100,000. It's an absolute explosion in import volume, and it is reshaping the entire European automotive market right in front of us. Now, the direct fallout of these soaring imports is exactly what you'd expect. Immense financial pressure on the old-guard European giants. Take Volkswagen, for instance. Their 2025 operating profit just took a significant hit. It's basically a perfect storm for them right now. They're dealing with higher US tariffs, fierce competition inside China, and most critically, they're losing their own domestic European buyers to these new Chinese brands that are rolling in with incredible tech at super attractive prices. It's setting up to be a very, very tough road ahead for European manufacturers. Which brings us to Section 4. Legacy automakers strike back, scrambling to compete. As you'd imagine, traditional US and European automakers are not taking this lying down. They are scrambling and launching some pretty varied counterattacks. Ford is attempting to out-innovate on costs. Their CEO, Jim Farley, is actually planning a $30,000 EV for 2027 using a new universal electric vehicle platform, basically trying to match BYD's production efficiency. Stellantis, on the other hand, is choosing to partner up. They're forming a joint venture with China's Leapmotor to share industrial capacity at plants in Spain. And Volkswagen, well, like we just discussed, they're currently having to just absorb those pressured margins while they desperately try to figure out how to win back their lost buyers.
Section 5. Tesla's slipping market share, a sudden market plunge.
Now, while all these legacy brands are busy recalibrating, we absolutely have to talk about the original pioneer of the mass EV market. What about Tesla? Up until very recently, for a massive chunk of the population, electric vehicles simply were Teslas. There wasn't really anything else they understood or cared about. So how is a brand that used to be totally synonymous with EVs holding up against this tidal wave?
Well, the sheer velocity of their decline is honestly stunning. According to benchmark data, Tesla's UK market share plunged from just over 16% in 2019, and get this, it's projected to hit less than 4% by the first half of 2026. This massive cliff dive didn't just happen in a vacuum either. It was fueled by shifting public views regarding Elon Musk and heavily compounded by a sudden influx of really great alternative options hitting the market. Practically overnight, consumers had their heads turned by compelling, high-tech, and lower-cost brands.
Finally, Section 6, the road ahead. The future of the auto market.
To forecast exactly where this incredible trend is heading next, let's bring this full circle back to that Geely dealership in Maidstone we mentioned earlier. Last year, they sold fewer than 1,000 cars locally in the UK. Pretty modest beginnings, right? But the momentum is building rapidly. And here is the absolutely crucial detail to keep in mind. This is all happening while they are still in the absolute early days of brand awareness. I mean, they haven't even fully established their dealership networks or launched their complete product lineups yet.
Riding that incredible momentum, Geely has set an incredibly aggressive target, 100,000. That's the number of vehicles they are targeting to sell annually in England alone by 2030. Aiming to jump from under 1,000 to 100,000 in a single local market? That tells you exactly how confident these automakers are in their own disruptive power.
So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If this staggering level of market disruption is happening right now, while these companies are still just building their networks and brand recognition, what is the global auto landscape going to look like once these brands achieve full mainstream awareness? We are literally watching an entire centuries-old industry rewrite its rules in real time. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes on the road ahead.